So we talked about the basics of Excel, how do the cell referencing work, what the column is, what the row is, what different data type in Excels are, all those kind of things. And then on the later half, we looked more into the Power Query side, where how do we load data into Excel, how do we transform it using Power Query, and we also looked into some of the pivot tables, how we can create pivot tables. I can use slicers and timelines to filter certain data in the pivot table as well. So that's what we did yesterday, where we were mostly focused on one table. So it was like single table operation. But in most of our analysis, it won't be a single table operation because data will exist in multiple different tables coming from multiple different sources. So today we will focus more on how do we merge those tables together, how do we combine different tables and to get that insights from. And we will also look into some of the really useful Excel formulas like VLOOKUP. And we will look at some of the really good functionality that's built in Excel, which is called data validation. And that helps us a lot in order to ensure that our data is of right quality, because that enforces the data to meet certain rules that we set for it. Okay, so let's start from there. So here you can open up your Excel and you can follow along with me. We have got this empty Excel spreadsheet, which will eventually be our orders table, right? So it has got a serial number, it has got a date, it has got item, price, quantity, and total. So this is the table we want to populate. And then on this other sheet, I have got items. These are the items that will populate the orders table eventually. You can create your own items table. It doesn't have to have the same items like I do, but as long as it has the same columns and just put in one or two items, just create a table that looks like this. And then we will be okay to start with this exercise. Okay, so just create two sheets. On one of the sheets, there will be the items table where you have got item ID, item name, item category, and price. And then on the other one, we will have orders, which I will show you a little bit later. Okay, so can you just try to create this table on your Excel? Again, like you can name it whatever you want, but just make sure you have these columns. Okay, cool. So once we have this table, so this will act as our reference table because this is the list of the items that we sell. And when we create our orders, we cannot sell the items that we don't have. So if the item doesn't exist in that item table, we can't enter that in this orders table, and that's the kind of relationship we will build. So let's start. So in the orders item, first thing will be one, which is just the serial number, which is fine. And there comes the date. So on the date, we also looked at one example yesterday, is that date is really hard to get it right because there are thousands of different ways we can write date. So how do we ensure that if someone comes in there and puts in this date, it's always in the right format? And the way to ensure something, to make sure that an entry is in right format, is by using data validation. Okay. For example, I can say that, okay, let's put in today's date here, 21. And so that will be a date, right? But no one is stopping me to put the date in this order as well, right? 21 July 2024. Nothing stops me to put date in that order. Nothing is stopping me to put it anything that I want because it doesn't tell me anything. I can even put whatever I want there, or I can even put wrong date like 2025 December 32. That's even an invalid date. So nothing is stopping me to do these kind of things. And if we don't stop people from doing these kind of things, what will end up happening is this kind of data would be saved, or this kind of data would be captured, and then when you are doing the analysis, you will see this kind of data and okay, it makes no sense. And even if I can write all the formulas, there is no way I can convert all of these dates into proper date because even this date doesn't even exist. How do we prevent these kind of things from happening? And that's where the data validation comes in. Okay, so what I will do is I will select whatever rows I want to select. So maybe we won't have too many things, so let's just select up to here. So I select the rows I want to put the validation in, and then I will go to data and I will click on data validation. There you go. And I will click on data validation. Okay, go to the data tab and click on data validation. And now we will define what the validation rule is. So for this instance, I want this to be a date, right? Because it has to be a date. And it has to be between 2020 01 01, maybe that's when we started taking orders, and it has to be less than today, or it has to be between today. I think that formula works, hopefully. Let's see. Did that work? I think it did. So now if I try to put in something like 29/07/2024, it will give me an error saying that the value does not match the data validation restriction defined for this cell, which means it won't allow me to have invalid data in here, right? So if I pass in 21/07/2024, it will be fine because that's today. But even if I try to put 22/07/2024, it will complain because the rule that we put it with this data, this date can be between 1st of January 2024 and today. So I cannot put even tomorrow's date, which is fine because if this was an actual order table, then you can't put in an order for tomorrow. It will have been the order date will be today if someone orders it today, right? So that's how we can put the validation, right? So even if I try to put 2023, I think it will complain, right? Because it says that, yeah, it cannot be 2023 because the validation that we put in is from January 1st. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, let's have a look at the data validation. Allow is date because this is date column, and the data is between, and then I put the start date to be 1st of January 2024, and then the end date is today. So it will continue to work tomorrow as well. If I just put in there 21/07/2024, it won't work for tomorrow, which is again bad thing, right? So instead of putting today, I use the formula called today, so it will work every single day. Because if we come in tomorrow, it will automatically know that today is 22. And again, these are the kind of small things that you need to be able to pick up because, yeah, you're not just building something for today. You're building things for other days as well. So you make sure it continues to work when the dates change, maybe some of the data change and things like that. So we can put similar validation on this one as well, right? Because this is a serial number, so it always has to be a number. So I can say this has to be a whole number, and it has to be between 1 and maybe like really big number, like 1 million or whatever, if we're expecting that many, right? So what that does, it will now prevent me from entering any other thing. I can't put ABC here because it's expecting a whole number. And it can't even be 1.5 because it's expecting a whole number. So it enforces people to put the right thing, which is, yeah, it has to be a whole number. So if I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, it will be fine. But if I put in anything that is invalid, it will complain as well. So because we have put validation on these two, I will just change the color of these ones to be maybe a little bit green so that we know that we have put the validation on these two, but we haven't put the validation on these ones yet. Okay, so those were a bit simpler validation, but this item list might have a different validation, or let's call it item ID so that we know that's the ID we're talking about. So this item ID, and let's insert one for item name because we need to know what item this is. So now this item ID has got it, yeah, we can validate this, but it's not like it has to be between this and this number, or it has to be a valid date or something. The validation that we need is this item ID needs to exist on this table, right? Because if the item is in here, then I can know what item it is, price it has, what category it belongs to, and all those things, right? So the condition for this column is that any value that you put in here has to exist in the other table, right? That's the condition we're working with here, right? So what I will do now is obviously I will need to add a validation here, right? So I will just select these rows and go to data validation. And the kind of validation I need now is called list. All right, so what I'm saying now is anything that goes into these rows needs to belong to this list. And now I have to tell it what list that is, right? So we'll click on this one, and then it is asking me to select the list. So I'll go to the other tab, other sheet, and I will select this list, right? And I will press OK. And then I can even put the message as well saying that the item doesn't exist, so that people know what's going on, right? So the item ID needs to exist in the items table. So when there is an error, this is what they need to see, right? So we can even customize the error message to let people know what's exactly going wrong, right? So item doesn't exist, the item ID needs to exist in the items table, right? And once we have done that, what it will do is it will actually make our life even easier, because now it gives us a drop down, because it knows that it can only be the values from that list. It can now actually just select from that list and say, okay, this is what I want, 1 or 2. And then here, this will be, okay, this is what I want, 1 or 3. And things like that, okay? So now that we have done this, let's just populate them, whatever they are. And let's just randomly populate some dates. All right. Now it let me populate them. What happened to the validation? Let's just make them 6 so that it also matches the validation. Okay, cool. So now we have validated to up to this point. Now we need to pull up item name for this item ID. So we just have this item ID, but we don't know what that item is, because we need to see the name, right? Because it's hard to tell from the ID itself what it is. And that information exists in some other table. So you have some information that you can use to look for some item in the other table. And that's exactly the use case for VLOOKUP. So what we will do now is we will use this item ID to find the name of this item from the other table, right? And the formula is called VLOOKUP. And every time you type the formula, you can see that it gives you that little bit of description about that. So the first thing it is asking for is the lookup value, which means what is the thing that you want to search for? And the value I want to search for is this. And then I do comma. And then the second thing it is expecting now is the table array. So which table should it look for? Okay, and so I will go to this table because this is what I need to look up for, and then I will select all of this. So this is the table where it needs to look for. And the next thing it is asking for is column index number. And what column index number represents is which column from this table do you want in return? Are you looking for the name of the item? Are you looking for the category of the item? Are you looking for the price of the item, right? And the index will be 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're looking for the name, the index will be 2 because that's the second column. And then if you're looking for the category, that will be 3. If you're looking for the price, that will be 4. And then the last thing is, do you want an exact match or do you want an approximate match? Just always use exact match because that will give you, so just use false in there so that it matches it exactly. Okay, after that, you complete the formula, press enter, and there we go. All right, so this is how the formula looks like. VLOOKUP. The first thing that you need to put in the formula is what is the thing that you want to search for. Second thing is where to search for, so the entire table. And then the third thing is what to return. So do you want the second column to return? Do you want the third column to return? Whatever it is. And the last, always use false because we want an exact match. We don't want an approximate match. So once you have done that, you get the item. Yep. So now I can just autofill this and it will do the thing for me. But it didn't. What happened here? The referencing. Because what it is doing, it is looking in items from A2 to D6 for the first one, and then it moved that to A3 to D7, which is not the right thing to do, right? It should always look at the exact same table. So what I need to do is I need to lock that. I need to convert it into absolute referencing, right? So we'll lock that in, and I will lock that in as well. So you can press F4 to lock it in. So it automatically inserts the dollar for you. So if you want to lock something, just go to that value and then just press F4 and it will insert that dollars for you. Or if you prefer to just put that dollar yourself, you can do that as well. All right, so now I have locked that table. So it will always be from A2 to D6. All right. So once I have done that, now it will work, right? Because it's always looking at that exact same table. And if you have got the item name correct, also try to use the VLOOKUP to get the price as well. It would be pretty similar query, so you can probably copy that formula and just change one thing in there. So try to get the price as well, and it'll be good. Okay, so for the price, it will be the same thing, but the formula will pretty much be the same. So let me copy that, because we are looking for the same thing on the same table. But the only thing that we want different is, instead of returning the name column, we want it to return the price column, which is I think the 4th column in that table. So I will just change that number 2 to number 4, and that will give me the price. And I think the price were represented as dollars here, so let me convert that to dollar as well in here. So that's how I will get the price. So let's talk about the quantity. Quantity is pretty simple. That's where people will enter how many coffees or whatever they have ordered. So let's try to put in a really simple validation in there as well, saying that it has to be a whole number. No one can order a 1.5 coffee anyway. And the minimum will be 1, maximum probably is like 1,000. I don't think anyone will ever order more than 1,000 coffees. So that's probably is a valid assumption. So I will say 1 coffee, 2 croissant, whatever, 3, 2, 1, 4, 6, right? So now we have got the validation on the column as well. And total column, because it's a calculated column, so it's pretty easy. Just multiply the price by quantity and you get the total. And you don't need validation here because it's already a combination of 2 different columns which are already validated. So this will be valid as well, because no one is going to put in or enter a new value in there. Right, so that gives us the total, which will be the sum of all of these. That's it. There we go. And what we can do is we can just make it look a little bit nicer. Just add this double line thingy. And yeah, there we go. Nice looking orders table. All validated. No one can put in wrong values in there. And if we get data in this nicely validated format, it makes our life way, way easier, because we don't have to spend too much time trying to figure out why this number is there. This item ID exists in here, but doesn't exist in the other table, and things like that, right? So it's just to make our analysis easier and prevent us from all these kind of weird things, okay? And it's responsive as well. So if I go in and change this to something, right? So if I change it to 101, everything changes and everything just works as expected, right? Because it will, as soon as I change this, the VLOOKUP will kick in, it will find the right item, it will find the right price, and everything will be updated on the go, right? If I update a quantity, it will do the same, right? So everything is connected to each other, everything works nicely, and you can just update whatever you want to update and it will continue to work as expected. So that's how we can combine different values from different tables, and that's how we build a really functional or useful kind of tables where multiple informations are coming from other tables, but still it stays up to date and it's well validated as well.